Hello, we are Clinic on Wheels, or COW for short. We have designed a holistic approach to provide homeless teens between the ages of 15 and 21 in San Diego County with healthcare services. We do this in hopes that with improved health, knowledge, attitude, and self-efficacy, our teens will increase their attendance at TAY counseling services. Because of these counseling services, our teens will develop the skills to reintegrate back into society. We will begin our overview of our evaluation process by going over our evaluation questions. First, we would like to identify if there will be a change in the use of healthcare services if there is an improvement in attitudes towards healthcare, knowledge of healthcare services, and self-efficacy of our teens. Second, we would like to see if there is an association between the attendance at COW and the attendance at TAY Academy. Here we have our model using the theory of reasoned action. As you can see, we believe that attitudes towards healthcare, knowledge of healthcare services, and self-efficacy will influence the intention to use healthcare services. This will result in a behavior change that will influence our teens to use our healthcare services. From the increased use of our services, these teens will be more inclined and motivated to attend more counseling sessions at TAY Academy. For our research, we will be using a time series non-experimental design as we do not have any control or comparison groups, and we are simply comparing pre-test and post-test data from multiple observations.
Now, for our evaluation process, we collected a non-probability convenience sample. We asked homeless teens already getting counseling service from TAY Academy to participate in our study. And we also included homeless teens that came to our clinic that were not already enrolled with TAY. To collect our data, we used surveys that our participants filled out every 3 months. Because we were unable to find instruments to help us measure what we were looking for, we developed our own survey and survey questions. This short survey measured the attitudes our participants had toward healthcare services, knowledge they had of healthcare, self-efficacy, and intention to use our healthcare services. A few of the sample questions can be seen here. Our questions collected mainly ordinal and nominal types of data. For example, the first question was intended to measure the knowledge of our participants had of healthcare services and is answered by either a yes or no question. An overview of the data analysis will be covered later on this presentation. In order to measure the constructs that were established in our conceptual model, we will have matched them with these variables seen here. For our first evaluation question, we have identified the independent variables as being the attitudes, knowledge, self-efficacy associated with healthcare, as well as the intention to use the Clinic on Wheels. Our expectations were to see if an improvement on these variables would result in increased usage of our healthcare services at COW. For our second evaluation question, we will measure the trends of the independent variable use of COW, which will compare to what results as our dependent variable, which is the use of TAY. Next, we will discuss our findings and how we interpret our data through data analysis. To organize our data collected from our surveys, we use chi-square analysis, and to help us interpret our second evaluation question, we use a correlational method to show the relationship between the use of COW and use of TAY. Let's take a look at our data analysis of our first evaluation question. As you can see above, the results from our surveys show a general trend of improvement among our independent variables. Here, we compared pre-test data to post-test results, and have concluded that through our efforts in teaching homeless use of health and healthcare and providing them with healthcare services, their attitudes, knowledge, and self-efficacy has all seemed to have improved.
For our second evaluation question, we decided that a correlation would best represent our findings. The line graph above illustrates the trend that both attendance rates have gone up throughout the course of our study. The data represented here is an average of the scores and attendance rates that we collected from our participants. For further analysis of our data, we developed a multivariate equation, and this equation allowed us to compare multiple variables and how they affected our study. Before we wrap up our evaluation process, we would like to address the limitations that we had to be aware of. Using a non-experimental study design by default makes it so that we had very little control of the factors that affected the validity of our results. Listed below are some of the few limitations that we saw affected our study the most. In particular, we saw that the maturation was going to be an issue for our study. Because of the ages of our population, some of the members could be entering our study as adolescents and staying until young adulthood. So we may not be able to tell whether the changes that our participants experience are due to our program or just mental growth. Because our study took a while to complete, we saw a few instances where participants dropped out of the study. And finally, we have to be aware of any other external programs, especially those that our teens may learn about from TAE Academy. All in all, our hypotheses have proven to be accurate. By gathering our data, by using a time series non-experimental study design, we were able to measure the independent variables for our first evaluation question, which were the attitudes, the knowledge, the self-efficacy as they relate to healthcare, and also the intention to use healthcare services with the surveys that we created. With a chi-square statistical test, we were able to determine that these variables improved throughout the course of our study and also resulted in an increased use of our CAL services. By measuring the attendance rates at both CAL and TAE, we were able to acknowledge a positive correlation between two services. With an increase in attendance of CAL, there was also an increased attendance of TAE. And that concludes our presentation. Thank you, congratulations, and good luck, class of 2016. Woohoo!